You ever notice how some people seem to be doing everything right financially and still feel stuck? They wake up early. They work full-time jobs. Some even work overtime. They save money every month. They try budgeting apps. They watch investing videos. Maybe they even started a side hustle hoping things would finally change. But despite all that effort, they still feel financially anxious. Not broke in the obvious way. They can pay rent. They can buy food. Their bills are mostly covered. But deep down, they constantly feel behind. And honestly, that feeling is becoming incredibly common. Because here's what most people don't realize. Making more money does not automatically create financial freedom. A lot of people increase their income, but accidentally increase their lifestyle even faster. So even after getting raises, promotions, or better jobs, they still feel trapped. Same stress, same anxiety, just more expensive problems. Meanwhile, someone else earning a similar income quietly builds wealth in the background. Why? Because financial freedom is less about income and more about understanding the rules that control money. And most people were never taught those rules. My name is Demas, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you're someone who feels stuck financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look. One of the biggest financial lies people believe is that higher income automatically solves financial problems. But that's rarely what actually happens, because as income increases, lifestyle usually increases too. Someone making $40,000 thinks, if I could just make $80,000 a year, everything would finally feel easier. Then they reach that number, and suddenly they upgrade everything. Better apartment, new car payment, more eating out, more subscriptions, more pressure to maintain appearances. And without realizing it, they build a more expensive life instead of a freer one. This is where people get trapped, because financial freedom is not about looking successful. It's about reducing dependency. That means having choices, having flexibility, having enough control over your money that one emergency doesn't completely destroy your life. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what should I actually do with my money? And honestly, this is where personal finance becomes confusing for a lot of people. Because everyone online gives different advice. Some people say, invest everything. Others say, pay off all debt first. But here's the thing. Not all debt is equal. A low-interest mortgage is very different from high-interest credit card debt. And high-interest debt is dangerous because it quietly steals your future income. A lot of people don't realize how brutal the math actually is. Imagine carrying a $10,000 credit card balance with a 24% interest rate. That debt keeps growing even while you sleep. Meanwhile, many long-term investments historically return around 7 to 10% annually. So mathematically, you're losing money by keeping that debt around. But the bigger problem is psychological. Debt creates stress. Stress affects decision-making. And stressed people usually make short-term choices just to feel temporary relief. That's why so many people stay financially stuck for years. Everybody wants the perfect investment. People spend hours searching for the best stock, the next crypto opportunity, or some secret strategy that will make them rich fast. But here's what most people don't realize. Time matters more than perfection. A person who invests consistently for 20 years will usually outperform someone constantly chasing the perfect investment. Because wealth is built through compounding. And compounding is one of the most powerful forces in finance. Even small amounts of money can grow massively over time if you stay consistent long enough. For example, investing $500 every month, starting in your early 20s, can potentially grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars over decades. Not because the person is a genius, but because they gave their money time to grow. This is where it gets really interesting. Most people delay investing because they think they need huge amounts of money first. But the biggest advantage is not money. It's time. And unfortunately, time is the one thing you can never recover once it's gone. Look. Most financial decisions are not logical. They're emotional. People love to believe they make rational choices with money, but emotions quietly control almost everything. Fear, stress, impulse, social pressure. All of it affects spending behavior far more than people realize. This is why financial stress becomes so dangerous. When someone constantly worries about bills, debt, or unexpected expenses, their brain shifts into survival mode. And survival mode focuses on short-term relief. That's why people overspend after stressful days. That's why emotional shopping exists. That's why buy now, pay later became so popular. Companies understand human psychology extremely well. They know people crave instant gratification. And honestly, most modern financial systems are designed to make spending feel painless. You don't physically hand over cash anymore. You just tap your phone and move on. But here's the dangerous part. Small emotional purchases repeated daily slowly become financial habits. And habits eventually shape your entire financial future. Because money problems usually don't appear overnight. They grow quietly through repeated emotional decisions. Here's something most people never notice. A lot of financially struggling people spend money trying to look financially successful. Nice cars, designer clothes, luxury apartments, expensive vacations posted online. And social media made this even worse. Because now people constantly compare their real lives to someone else's highlight reel. But here's what most people don't realize. Real wealth is often invisible. Nobody sees the investment portfolio. Nobody notices the emergency fund. Nobody congratulates someone for having zero debt. But everyone notices expensive purchases immediately. And that creates a dangerous cycle. People begin spending money for social validation instead of actual happiness or long-term freedom. Meanwhile, many wealthy people think completely differently. They focus on ownership, assets, businesses, investments, cash flow. Because wealthy people understand one important truth. Looking rich and being rich are completely different things. One creates attention. The other creates freedom. And honestly, a lot of people sacrifice their future freedom just to maintain an image that impresses people who probably aren't even paying attention. Here's what most people don't realize about financial freedom. It's not just about having more money. It's about having more control over your life. That's why emergency funds are so important. Not because saving money is exciting, but because savings create options. If someone loses their job with no money saved, they panic. They accept bad opportunities. They stay in toxic environments. They make desperate decisions because they have no time to think clearly. But someone with savings behaves differently. They negotiate differently. They think long-term. They make decisions from stability instead of fear. And this connects to another important idea most people misunderstand: risk. People think risk means investing in stocks or starting a business. But real risk is dependency. Depending entirely on one paycheck, one employer, one source of income. That's fragile. Because if that single source disappears, everything collapses. This is why financially free people focus heavily on ownership and multiple income streams. Not for status, for security, for flexibility, for freedom. So if you feel financially stuck right now, don't overcomplicate this. Most people think financial freedom requires some secret strategy, but honestly, the fundamentals are usually simple. The hard part is consistency. First, start paying attention to where your money actually goes every month. Not where you think it goes, where it actually goes. Because a lot of people are shocked once they finally track their spending honestly. Second, focus aggressively on eliminating high-interest debt. That debt quietly drains your future income and keeps you financially stressed. Third, build an emergency fund before taking unnecessary financial risks. Even a few months of savings can completely change the way you think and make decisions. Fourth, invest consistently into long-term assets. Not because it's exciting, but because consistency matters more than timing. And finally, invest in your skills. Communication, sales, marketing, content creation, negotiation. Skills increase your earning potential for the rest of your life. And honestly, that may be one of the highest return investments you'll ever make. Look, nobody is coming to rescue you financially. Not your employer, not the government, not some magical investment opportunity you saw online. And honestly, that realization can feel uncomfortable at first. But it's also incredibly empowering, because it means your future is still in your hands. A lot of people think financial freedom happens overnight. But real wealth is usually built slowly through small decisions repeated consistently for years. Spending less than you earn, avoiding destructive debt, investing regularly, improving your skills, thinking long-term even when short-term distractions feel tempting. That's how freedom is actually created. Quietly, patiently, deliberately. And here's the biggest thing most people misunderstand. Financial freedom is not really about becoming rich. It's about becoming difficult to control. When you have savings, investments, low debt, and options, fear starts losing power over your life. And honestly, that peace of mind may be the most valuable thing money can buy.